Robertson, CNN, Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Joining me now, a leading expert on the Troubles, Lord Paul Bew, a professor of Irish politics at Queen's University in Belfast. Welcome to the programme.
Good evening.
Good evening to you there. What is the reaction amongst the people? Is this really jarring the people of Belfast and Northern Ireland?
Yes, I think Dick Kerr is right when he says this is not going to upset the Good Friday Agreement settlement, because there are majorities in both communities firmly for it. But on the other hand, it is provoking a political crisis. It's not the violence just occurring in a place unconnected from the mainstream politics. The great fear of the unionist right, which is growing stronger, is of a Republican campaign of violence on the streets, while you have Republicans also in government exercising power in sensitive areas such as policing and justice. So there is a way in which this increase in violence is playing into the mainstream politics of Northern Ireland and making it hard for the institutions to function, because there is more fear and reserve, especially on the right wing of unionist politics, about the current situation than there was a year ago before these dissidents really got going.
So, as you explain that, let's focus then on the policing, because that does seem to be a critical area of dispute between the two sides, the Protestant Unionists and the Catholic Republicans. What is the status right now? They've been given all sorts of incentives by the British, lots and lots of money, millions and hundreds of millions of pounds. Why is this not happening?
It's not happening because although there is an implicit agreement to do this, and in my view the First Minister, who's a unionist, Mr. Peter Robinson, wants to move ahead on this issue, he has nonetheless got himself into a big row and division with his Deputy First Minister, Martin McGuinness of Sinn Féin, because Peter Robinson now finds him under pressure, now finds himself under pressure within his own party, because there is now fear about moving ahead in this final area of policing and justice, because it's become much more sensitive, because there's a return of violence. You can make many arguments that what's at stake here in the real world is a very small issue. We already have a devolution in policing and justice because the local policing boards already operate. So devolution in this area is already partly at work at the moment, totally successfely within the community.
So how are they going to resolve it?
We also have a situation where there is a large-scale British intelligence operation going on in Northern Ireland, and that is not going to be affected by the devolution of policing and justice. So there are ways to say that in the real world what's at stake here is not so great, but symbolically it's very important.
Well, it's not just symbolically,
also,
Paul.
with Sinn Féin laying down deadlines and saying that Mr. Robinson must move very quickly, always in Northern Irish politics tends to produce a negative reaction.
Right.
So we do
Lord
have
Bew?
a real political crisis which affects the functioning of the institutions in a serious way.
Lord Bew, it's not just symbolic, is it? Because it's really affecting the street, but also what they said in the previous report from Nick Robertson, that they haven't seen the peace dividend, that where is the work for the people who came out of jail? What is the bigger infrastructural problem that gives even any oxygen to the dissident Republicans?
Well, my own view is that what the interviews really showed was that the Good Friday Agreement is not delivering on rapid progress towards Irish unity, which many people in Sinn Féin expected it would do, and many of their voters expected it would do. And it was quite commonly said within that community that 2016, the 100th anniversary of the Easter Rising of 1916, would be the date for Irish unity. Now, there are many reasons why the Good Friday Agreement is not delivering in that respect. Partly because it accepted the principle of unionist consent, and there is still a unionist majority in Northern Ireland, and they're likely to be for some many years to come, but also the economic crisis of the Irish Republic and also the crisis around the church has created a sense that the people of the rest of the island of Ireland are not pushing for Irish unity in the rather gentle way that they were, it has to be said, but they're not even doing that now. All these things leave the as it were, the morale of Northern nationalism in a less good place, in a less optimistic place than it was 2-3 years ago. All these things make it harder for the Sinn Féin leadership to sell their political strategy.
All right.
Means that they now have to be tough when they encounter a negotiating difficulty with the unionists.
Okay.
And it means that some people are saying, you told us this political process would be better than they're going to bring about Irish unity. Where is the evidence?
And we'll be keeping an eye on it.
Fundamentally, that last point is fundamentally the arguments that fuels the dissidents.
Lord Bew will be keeping an eye on it. Thank you for analysis.